Hello everyone, welcome to our first recording for the GSA Search Engine Ranker training. We're going to start by going over the global options for GSA, which are located here. You see we just done a fresh install, so there isn't any information in GSA. It's a blank slate at this point. So to get started, we'll go to the global options here, and you'll notice that this is the navigation menu from the global options here on the left-hand side. We're going to go ahead and start with advanced. And in this section, you'll notice that we have the ability to set up folders to globally capture properties that we're making links from. So we want to go ahead and do that. You'll notice that the first four boxes are checked. We want to go ahead and check those. And that's going to enable GSA to create a database or a list of the sites that it has identified, successfully submitted to, verified, and failed during your campaigns. So you'll have a database of, or an inventory of sites that you can easily use for linking from that point on. You notice also here that there's a number of options that aren't unchecked. GSA has so many aspects to it and so many settings and so many things it's doing at one time. We want to be careful not to add to its load unnecessarily. So although you may see some features in here that you may want to use, it's generally best to leave it set the way that I'm showing you to begin with, and then if you'd like to test it by trying some of these other features afterwards, then just try them one at a time, because they can have a real negative effect on its efficiency. And if you just change a number of them without remembering which ones you checked, you won't be able to remember your way back to the settings that we are giving you for the default. So in this case, there is an add-on called SareEngines.com. It's pretty valuable. It's about 40 Web 2.0 properties, really valuable ones like Tumblr and others. You can go to their website and look at it at SareEngines.com. If you decide to do that, it's something like $15 a month. It's well worth it for the value it adds. And it'll add a whole new set of inventory of sites you can link to in GSA. It's a service they provide because these particular Web 2.0 properties have a lot of security, and they change their security often. So SareEngines provides the service of updating all the security and providing the API to GSI as an add-on. So just put it in here and click update if you decide to add that inventory to the sites you can link from. The rest of these settings, if you are having issues, you can run it in debug mode, and it gives you a better idea of what might be happening. But that generally shouldn't be necessary the way we're showing you to set this up. And as far as recording PR and things like that, for general use, it's not necessary. So we're gonna set you up to begin with without it. And if you decide to play with that later on, then that's fine too. The filter option is a blacklist, but we're gonna show you how to use GSA to filter out sites that are undesirable. There's a lot of filters inside of GSA, as you'll see. So these blacklists aren't really necessary. This is a global on and off switch, so you don't need to worry about what's checked here. If you check this, it's going to use these blacklists, and if any sites are on these, it won't allow a link to be made to your site on them. But we're gonna take care of you by setting up the filters properly to get rid of those sites to begin with. So it's just not necessary. The submission area, and we're going to go over the indexing and CAPTCHA in the next video, because there's just a lot of information there. So we'll skip over that for the moment here. We'll talk about that in a minute. Now, if you're using a VPS, generally a good setting is 300 threads for GSA. If you're running this on something like a computer in your office, you're going to have to play with this. It really depends on the power of that computer and your internet. You might want to start at 10 and try going between 10 and 50, or even if you have a really good computer and really good internet in your office, maybe 100 threads, somewhere in there. The timeout you want to set at 180. And unless you have bandwidth restrictions, you don't really need to use this. For instance, I have a VPS that has unlimited bandwidth, so we don't need to worry about bandwidth limits. If you don't have unlimited bandwidth, then you don't want to get a big bill with your internet connection service. Then you'd probably want to experiment with using this bandwidth limit. Now this is the proxy section. It's a good idea to use private proxies with GSA, and they can be used in combination with public proxies. So to set up to use proxies, you want to use proxies for everything, whether you use public or private. This is a decision you'll need to make, and I'll explain some of the benefits. But we want to check all of these, so we're going to be using proxies for all of the major work areas. And so for search engine submission, PR checking, and verification, we're going to check those to use proxies. And then we want it to stop if we ever run out of proxies or something happens with our proxies, and restart when we have proxies available again. That's just a precaution. And to disable proxies as they get banned or something happens with them, as the submission process works. So we're going to go in here to configure, and these are proxies that are already in here. But if you've got private proxies, you just go here to add proxies and go down and put them in your clipboard. In other words, just highlight them with your mouse, right click and go copy, and then just go in here, import from clipboard. It's the bottom option, and it'll automatically put your private proxies in here. As far as public proxies, GSA has a scraping system, so it will automatically keep you in an inventory of public proxies. In order to set that on, we want to check the top box here and check the second box. And so what the second box does is we're going to set it at 1,000 proxies. And when your public proxies get below 1,000, it's automatically going to wait 30 minutes and then search for new ones. And every 30 minutes it'll search for new ones until you have more than 1,000. So it's kind of an automatic inventory level system. Whenever we get down to 1,000, it's going to automatically maintain our inventory and go get more. These kind of public proxies are most of them you'll find are going to be bad, so we want to test everything. This is actually a setting here, so we want to set it to all good and bad. We're going to test all the proxies, and we're going to remove bad ones every 400 minutes is how I like to set it. So essentially, public proxies, they only last a very limited period of time. So they're going to burn out, and as they burn out, our inventory goes down. When it gets to 1,000, it's going to go search for more on the internet and maintain that as a minimum inventory. It's going to test all of them, and it's going to tell us which ones are good, and the GSA will use those along with our private proxies. And all the bad ones, it's going to delete every 400 minutes. Now this is the threads for just checking proxies, right? We set the 300 threads for actually the running of GSA, but we're also going to set 300 threads just to go out and test proxies. Find them, download them, and test them. And a timeout of 120, which is the maximum setting. And then I've got the system set up to disable proxies when they go bad. It doesn't matter whether they're private or public. So what will happen is we'll have, and you can see what's going on is we've got the proxies that are good are in green, and the proxies that it's disabled over time are in red. So I set it every 400 minutes to go delete the bad ones, but I'm just going to do it manually here. So just so this is easier to see and explain. So it's gone out and gotten proxies. We have 2,645 now. And it's tested them all, and these have all been tested as successful. So it'll use these in conjunction with our private proxies. So this is all automatic now. We can just push OK, and this is just going to maintain itself as we go. And then we go back to options, and you have the option here of setting what you want to use, what part of the GSA's function you want to use with the private proxies with, and which portion you want to use the public proxies with. The main sensitive area with GSA is the submission, so I like to go 100% private with that. and skip for identification, which just means if GSA has to identify a type of site to be able to know how to submit to it, when it's doing the identification process, it's just going to go do it without a proxy, and then when it's actually doing the submission, it's going to use a private proxy. The verification and the PR checking I've got set to do with a combination of public and private proxies. And then I'm going to do the search engines and the submissions with private only. So that's how I like to set mine up. And then so this is going to automatically maintain the entire proxy system. So that's the settings for advanced and filter and submission. We'll be going over indexing and CAPTCHA in the next 2 videos. Welcome to GSA Search Engine Ranker Training video number 2. Today we're going to be going over indexing. Again, it's up here in the options section, and we're going to go to the indexing portion here on the master navigation menu. Now, on this page are 2 different types of services. There's indexing and there's pinging. Pinging is something like you use on a WordPress blog when you make a post. It sends out a ping, so the spiders of the search engines will come see your post. But generally for linking, we're not going to be using this. This is a global on and off, so you don't have to worry about what's checked here below. As long as this is not checked, it won't be using these pinging services. If you decide for some reason to use it, just turn it on. Then you can select which ones you'd like to use. The indexing services that work with GSA Search Engine Ranker are here. Again, there's the GSA SEO indexer that comes from GSA, which is a desktop piece of software. These are indexing services. They work through an API key, which automatically sends the links over from GSA to them, and they provide their service. And each one is pretty specialized in what they provide. So I figure we'd spend a minute going through that information. Those are actual links in there in GSA to their website, so I just open them up, and I have them here all in a row. GSA Search Engine Ranker is here. It's only $20, but sometimes you get what you pay for. It just is very slow. At the end of the day, you'll have made a large quantity of links with GSA, and this will be working on a very small portion of those and continuing to move forward. So it just doesn't keep up, and some say that it requires too many assets on your server as well. So I don't recommend it. You can give it a try if you like. The next service on the list is Instant Link Indexer, and a lot of these services are highly specialized. You notice this one is all about getting an instant indexing in minutes. This would be good for something like possibly a launch jacking, or something where you want to get your results very quickly. So if you're interested in launch jacking, you can see here's the price range, so not too expensive for quick linking, and it's definitely worth giving a try, especially if you're doing launch jacking. I use indexification myself because it gives you 1.5 million links a month, and it's only $17.97. They do a good job of indexing. So it's the most reasonable, and gives you the broadest array of service over a substantial number of links for a month. So I do recommend this service. Linklicious, I don't really know much about. They have different plans for anywhere from 2,500 index links a day to 50,000. You can see it's anywhere from free to $57 a month. So I don't know much about it. I know it's fairly popular, but if that looks interesting to you, you might give it a try. Nuclear Link Indexer, I've been looking this over, and it's from a foreign country. The sales page doesn't even seem to be very well written, so I would have trust issues with this. But it's something you might try if you want. Link Pipeline I do use at times. The whole thing with Link Pipeline is it's not really an indexing service per per se. It provides more like, high quality tier 2 linking to your links as you go. The thing about it though is it's only about 600 links per day, or 265 links per day. So this is just for a specialized campaign. If you're doing something you really want a lot of juice and you're doing it on a limited basis, that's what I use it for. Specialty campaigns where I want some juice behind my links. So for that kind of purpose, you might want to give this a look. And then there's Backlinks Indexer, which again, 15,000 links per month isn't very much, and the price seems high to me. So, and then there's Index Imperior, and they, I don't really know much about it. It does seem like they do 50,000 URLs per day, and it's something you might want to give a try, but I don't really know much about it. So those are the services that work directly with GSA, providing an API key, incorporate directly into GSA, where as links are made, they're automatically sent over to their services until you run out of your limits per day, or your limits per month. Now, to that end, there's ways to restrict it so only certain things go over too. I mean, you can set it for only do-follow links to be sent to your indexing service, and only PR links above a certain PR. And so you could govern down the links that are going over there, just making sure your super good ones are being indexed. That's another strategy. And you can even drip feed them if it's supported by the individual service. So those are things you're probably going to want to experiment with for specialty campaigns and specialty circumstances. And that's really how the linking portion, or the indexing portion of GSA works. Those are the services it works with. And again, the whole purpose of doing indexing is to get your links, indexed in the search engines index, so they can start applying their power more rapidly instead of Google having to stumble upon them, which could take a great deal of time in some cases, or maybe never happen even. So that's all the information on indexing. We'll be going on in our next video into the CAPTCHA service. Welcome everybody to our third video for the GSA Search Engine Ranker training. We're going to be going over CAPTCHA in this video. So you'll find that under Options here, and in the Options navigation bar under CAPTCHA. Now you'll see in here several things. One is that you need to really click Add to see what options are available, and you'll see there's a lot of different options available in here for CAPTCHA. GSA has their own product, which is always listed first on the list here, is GSA CAPTCHA Breaker. So you click Add and you notice that it'll add that service in here, and you can do things like retry the second time, or even more if you want, or only use it if the PR is between a certain level, or only for do-follow links. And there's a setting here for if it does fail, to ask you whether you want to solve it yourself. And I don't recommend that, because you'll be, having those boxes pop up all day long asking you for a service. Because from my experience, GSA solves somewhere, CAPTCHA Breaker solves somewhere in the vicinity of 65-70% of the CAPTCHAs, somewhere in there, give or take, depending on your circumstances and your setup. Now, this is set up so you can stack these services in here. So you can put GSA CAPTCHA service, and then you can add, for instance, so if you go in here, it says recommended a second service, deCAPTCHA. I mean, that's their recommendation. So you can have it go to GSA, retry it twice, for instance, the first time, and then a one retry, and then if it doesn't work, send it over to deCAPTCHA, and that's going to send everything over to deCAPTCHA. So bear in mind, you're going to get a bill from deCAPTCHA, which is a per 1,000 CAPTCHA service. You can also add, and I actually prefer Death by CAPTCHA because it's a little bit less expensive, but you could use that as a second service here too. Now there are other options. GSA CAPTCHA breaker itself has settings for what can happen if it fails to solve the CAPTCHA. And in GSA CAPTCHA breaker, you have a lot more minute options as to what you can do. Here, if you do set up this way, it's going to send every single thing that fails over to death by CAPTCHA to be solved, which death by CAPTCHA generally solves almost 100% of the CAPTCHAs. So the good thing is you're going to probably get almost all of the links, but the bad thing is you're going to get a pretty good bill. So in GSA CAPTCHA breaker, there's settings where you can just send over just particular types of CAPTCHA over to death by CAPTCHA. For instance, reCAPTCHA is one of the big issues that GSA and other desktop type CAPTCHA services can't solve. You could just set it up to send reCAPTCHA over to death by CAPTCHA, and which is some very important links, and then skip the rest, or send any other particular type of CAPTCHA that is failing over and individually choose them. So we'll go over that when we go over the GSA CAPTCHA breaker settings, in that module. But for now, just know that you can set up GSA here, which is what I recommend. And if you want to get everything else sent to a CAPTCHA service, then you can either put CAPTCHA or death by CAPTCHA here, and it'll send, or you can send. You can handle that in the settings of GSA CAPTCHA breaker, where you have a lot more control what to do if this fails. So now here there's also another service, because CAPTCHA isn't the only type of security that these sites that we're going to be asking for links from use. I mean, there's also text question security, like 12 minus 9 equals, right? Or other types of text security I'm sure you've seen. This server called askmebot.com, I think it's the current price is around $10 a month, right? And if you wish to have those types of security solved for you, you just go pay for their service, put their API key in here, click test, and just go ahead and click go. So those are the options here for CAPTCHA. If you go in here, and you'll notice there's a lot of other services. And GSA has expressed their opinion on a lot of them. Sometimes it says unstable, sometimes slow, outdated, down, slow. Most of them, aren't going to be as good as their own product, and they're right. They've got a good product, GSA CAPTCHA breaker. CAPTCHA Sniper is their big competitor, and there's a lot of going back and forth as to who's best. So just to help out, I found a service that had done a survey on that. This is someone on a forum who did a concrete, detailed study on GSA versus a CAPTCHA breaker versus CAPTCHA Sniper, and you can see in his study, death by CAPTCHA outperforms both of them, but CAPTCHA breaker does beat CAPTCHA Sniper pretty handily. So it's a service I use, and it's what I would recommend too. So, and you can do your own research and your own due diligence on this and make your own choices, obviously. There's another service mentioned in there of the options called Spamvilla, and they handle very specifically reCAPTCHA, which is what we were talking about. And they have this service for reCAPTCHA OCR with 50% accuracy. And they'll sell you the API, and you'll notice the volumes here. It says it's best for, it's GSA Ranker, but you notice low volume users. And this is the problem with the service, because this only allows you 10 threads, 20 threads, 50, 100 threads for $150 a month. That's fine if you're using it on a low power computer, like something in your office. Somewhere in here would be fine, but it's not cheap. And if you're using it on a VPS that's highly capable, we would be running at 300 threads, so this wouldn't you'd be overpowering the API. So, and then they ask you for a custom price if you want to move up from there, which I'm sure is even more expensive. So anyway, it's an option for running for just capturing reCAPTCHAs on a limited basis. You might want to check that out. So that's our lesson for the GSA Search Engine Ranker CAPTCHA section. Welcome to our GSA Search Engine Ranker training video number 4. In this video, we'll be going over setting up, or the initial part at least, of setting up a project or a campaign, or sending links to whatever your desired target is, on the internet for your marketing project. So we're going to start by clicking New here. This is the project area. When you set up your projects, they'll be up here in this space. So you'll notice that, as we get done here, that the campaign will be showing up over here as we save it. But to get started, there's a lot of different settings for a campaign. As you see it here. And so we're going to do the training in an organized way, section by section. So later on, as you have a question about a certain section or how something works in that section, you can come back specifically to that section directly and get training just on that individual area, and quickly solve your issue and continue moving on with your campaigns in an organized way. So that's our goal here. So we're going to start with the URL, which is the target destination of the links that you are setting up the campaign for. Now, there's several kinds of campaigns that I'm sure do on an ongoing basis. There's a campaign, could be for a single URL. Maybe it's a Web 2.0 property, or a social media property, or some other type of property where you want to link to a single URL and set up a full campaign for that URL. And then there's other kinds of campaigns where you have a website, and each page of the website has possibly been optimized for a different LSI term, and you need to have different anchor text going to every single page, and you want them in a project. So we're going to cover both of those right now. The first thing we want to talk about is a Facebook or something like that. We're just going to use that as an example because it's easy to use. So here we have a Facebook page, and just going to push OK. And you notice we didn't just go here and type things in, because things really get sideways with GSA when you do that. It really wants you to go through this edit button, and I'll give you an example of that in a little bit here. But you notice we went through this section, we added it. We can come in here and we can edit it or work with the different URLs. And we got here through edit all. And this box is really small when it opens up. You're always going to want to stretch it out, or at least I like to, so I can see, what I'm doing. Now, the other kind of campaign that we talked about was a multiple-page website with each page having different anchor texts. And the way you set that up in GSA is by coming in here and going edit, add URL, and anchor text. And when you do that, we're just going to use, let's say, just as an example, site.com. And then we'll set up an anchor text. And this is standard spin format, just keyword with a pipe between pipe separated. So we've put our keywords in here, and again, this anchor text, this spin syntax could be as big as you want it, right? I don't think that's a pipe right there. I think that looks a little bit crooked. So okay, so you can put as many words in here in the spin syntax as you want. You can add, your naked URL, your branded terms, LSI, anchor text terms, main keywords, co-occurrent terms, and anything else you want in here. This spin syntax can be as big as you want it, right? But just for an example, we're going to use these three terms. And then you'll notice here that it's showing up in here. And if we click this click to count, now we've got 2 items in here. And it's a good idea to verify this just to make sure that everything's set up properly. And we can go back here to edit all. And we've got the 2 pages in here. It's a lot easier, for me at least, instead of using that 2-box system to add every single page on a multiple-page website, just to come in here and use cut and paste to set up the other pages. So I'm just going to put in page 2 here, and then page 3. And then let's say we were talking about a multi-page website where each page had different spin syntax. So let's say this is keyword A, keyword 2A, and keyword 3A, and then we have keyword B, 2B, and 3B. See, if we had more pages, we would just do the same thing. We would add, say if it was a 7-page website, we'd add the pages 4 through 7 in the exact same way. You notice the syntax that GSA uses. You have the URL, and then the # signifies that the URL is finished, and that the keywords are beginning at that point. So you can come in here and add as many pages as you want by putting in the URL, then a #, then your spun keyword combination that you'd like to use for the campaign. So that's how you set up a multiple-page campaign. We're going to continue just through with an easier example, just a 1-page campaign. So I'm going to go ahead and just save that. You notice though in here though too, there's a crawl online feature. If you have a website that's bigger than just a few pages, and GSA will actually just put the homepage URL here, and it'll actually just crawl the entire site and put all the URLs in here. So and you can do that to auto add, and then just bear in mind if you do that, you'll still need to come in here and click edit all, and it'll put the feeds and everything else, a lot of things you don't want to link to probably in here. You got to come up here and clean up the list after it's done. And then, you'll need to add the anchor text too. So, adding the # and then the anchor text spin afterwards, right? Okay, so also you'll notice in here that, you can clear everything that's in here, and there's reasons for that. You're going to want to do that under certain circumstances that we'll go over later on. Because when you set up a campaign, you can just duplicate it in seconds. For instance, if you do a Facebook and you have a Twitter and a Google Plus and a YouTube for the same money site, you can just duplicate the Facebook campaign in seconds, and all you need to do is come in here and change the URL to the YouTube, save it, and you've got the second campaign going and ready in seconds. And we'll go over that later in the training. But so you'll use the clear button for that, or the delete button for that, and then come in here and add the new URL for the second campaign in that case. So, okay, and then of course you can import a list of URLs from a text document or from your clipboard in here too. So you have multiple ways to come in here and set up your URL. This one setting here, just want you to be aware, it says use random URLs from the list you've set up in here, or else submit in sequence. You would only want to use this checkbox if you have more than one URL right in here. The reason is, say in the case of the 7-page website, if it's going to randomly choose one of the 7 pages, then the website's not going to end up with the same, exact number of links per page, right? It's going to have a variance, which looks more natural, and that's the reason for picking random URLs for multiple page campaigns. But if you have just one page like this Facebook, you want to make sure you uncheck the box. Okay, so that's the settings for the URLs. We'll be going over the anchor text next in the next video, so look forward to seeing you then. All right, it's time for our GSA Search Engine Ranker video number 5. In this video, we're going to talk about setting the anchor text parameter for our campaign, or the anchor text that are going to be used for the incoming links for our target URL or URLs. You recall last time we were able to attach anchor text to individual URLs on a multi-page website, and so you already know how to do that. But on a single page website, we're going to put our anchor text down here because we have a great deal of settings that we can really fine tune down to just the minutest percentage point, how we can set that mix so it's just perfect for our SEO campaign. So we can take our main anchor text, our money keywords, and we can put them right here. And you notice again, I'm using the import feature because if you just try to paste it in here, you'll see it, but most of the time GSA won't recognize that it's there, and you'll save the campaign. You'll come back, the box will be empty. So if you import it, over the long run, you'll save yourself some problems. Now you notice that we can also fine tune our anchor text diversity here even by specific percentage points by just checking the box. We've got generic, LSI, branded, and a couple of other options here. Generic is, these are terms that are built in. They're like click here, get it here, go here. There's a really large variety here that it's going to use randomly. You can edit this list any way you want, add to it or take away from it, and save it, and it'll update the words it's going to use. In this case, I've got some examples here of LSI terms we can put in if we want to use those. Again, this is standard spin syntax here. And these anchor texts can be as large as you want. These spin syntax, pardon. You could put 100 LSI terms in here or more, or just 10 to 25. Whatever you want to do for your campaign, it's completely up to you, but you have unlimited options here to narrow down very precise keyword anchor text diversity that you'd like to create. We can put our naked URLs. You notice, GSA doesn't use sometimes the same terms we're used to using, but it doesn't matter. As long as you check the box, whatever you put in here, it's going to use this percent. So I'm using this for my naked URLs, even though it says secondary anchor text. This one says partial match. You could use that for co-occurrent terms or anything else you want, and just put whatever you want in spin syntax and set the percentage, and that's what it's going to do. So in this case, we're going to use 10% branded. We're going to use 20% LSI. That was 10% generic. I'm sorry. 20% LSI. We're going to use 15% branded. And the naked URL, I'm going to use 25%. And you notice that the difference between this and 100 is what it's going to use of the main anchor text. So we have 10, 20, 70% here total. So it's going to use the main anchor text 30%. And these. Now this is just an initial setting for the campaign. You can change these on the fly as you go during the campaign to adjust. You might want to check Ahref as you go and verify the keyword variation that you're getting, and that nothing's being used too much. Again, these are spin syntax, right? So that means it's just going to randomly grab one. It doesn't mean it's going to perfectly use them evenly all the time exactly. It could, one day grab, a few times more of this than this. So you still, even though you've got the spin syntax set up perfectly, you want to verify your URL diverse anchor text diversity, as you go with the campaign, and make adjustments accordingly. Especially since GSA makes so many links in a day, it's really important to stay on top of that right from the beginning of the campaign and stay on top of it all the way through so it doesn't get away from you. Now, there's a couple other things here. You can use domain as an anchor text and set it as a certain percent, which is going to use this. Or you could use anchor text variations, which means it's going to take these anchor texts that you set up in here and vary them by capitalizing portions of it, in different ways, as it submits and goes. So those are things that you can use to even get more diversity if you like. Again, you can see with the types of settings you got here that you could really set the anchor text diversity very precisely and extremely diverse. You're only limited really by your imagination here with these settings on what you'd like to do. And over time, that's going to be great because Google changes things a lot in short periods of time. We don't know what we're going to need in 3 months or 6 months, but you can see no matter what you need, you're going to be able to achieve it here for any kind of campaign. So that's the anchor text portion of the campaign. And again, we'll be going next video through the keywords. So I look forward to seeing you there for that video. And I think you'll see that with this anchor text setup that GSA has, that the control you have over the anchor text is very precise. It's a very nice feature to have. Okay, so we've gone ahead and set up our URL, gone over how to add multiple URL campaigns. We've laid down our anchor text so we get great diversity and we have full control. And now we're going to use the keywords. Now, some may wonder why, we're using keywords when we already use anchor text, based on our main keywords, and we'll go over that in a minute here. So I'm just going to drop our keywords in, and you notice they're comma separated. If you put your mouse over, it'll give you instructions. In this case, they're comma separated. Down here, they're spin syntax. So we've added, just 5 keywords in this case, and actually, generally probably you want a little bit more than that, but they really need to be very broad terms. And the reason for that is it's going to take these words, and go to search engines and find sites in your niche to find candidates to link back to you with, right? So GSA is a busy worker. It's going to go through hundreds of thousands of sites a day for a number of, for a while. I mean, it's going to go through millions of sites. So you need to make sure you give it a broad enough set of keyword terms where it's not going to run out of candidates, at least initially. And so you want to have really broad terms. So, for instance, if this Facebook campaign is about weight loss, then you want to use weight loss, fat loss, maybe diet, really broad terms like that, and maybe 7 or 8 of them. The ones that you think will be most pertinent towards getting a wide variety of sites that you would like to see links from. You want to kind of rethink sometimes the way you're deciding on these keywords too, because just because you're in the weight loss industry doesn't mean the only good links that you're going to get would only come from the weight loss industry. I mean, the weight loss industry includes health, right? For instance, a health site link coming into you for your weight loss niche site would be a great link. So think outside the box a little bit on the type of sites that would be great links. I mean, for instance, if you're a lawyer and you're getting links for a lawyer, then links from a business site would be awesome links, right? So it's not just lawyer terms, because lawyers serve businesses, and links from a business site to a lawyer site would be very natural and very high quality. So think in those terms. Try to broaden your horizons a little bit on the keywords. We want to, and again, this is just a starting place of a campaign. So over time, GSA is going to go through a ton of sites, and we want to add, broaden the campaign as it goes to give it more targets to find. So you might want to start with a very nice list here, and you might want to add to it in a few days, and then a few days later even add to it more. There's a number of ways inside that we are going to go over during the course of these videos to expand the campaign further. So they'll be addressed in the various videos that pertain to that. But one way, other than adding keywords, is to add to check these 2 boxes. What they're going to do, and if you mouse over it, you notice it tells you exactly what they're going to do anywhere in GSA. But they're going to find the meta keywords for the sites that it found for your keywords in the search engine, and it's going to use those meta keywords as additional search terms to go look for more sites. So that's what these first two will do. So after a number of days, that would be another way to broaden the campaign, right? Just come back in here and check these two. Now this last one, is going to be useful under certain circumstances for you. It's when it goes to the search engine with your keyword, it's going to put it in quotes, which we know gives a really tightly niched set of sites to it. It doesn't broaden the campaign, it actually restricts it, but in a good way, highly and tightly into your niche. And this could be useful under certain kinds of circumstances. I mean, say you have a client that comes to you who's got a boatload of links, but they're all from outside his niche. They're just general links. I mean, he doesn't have hardly any links from his niche. So you could just click this box and it would just get him super highly niched incoming links to round out his portfolio of links coming in and put them back in balance, right? I'm sure you can think of a lot of other ways you can use this, but that's just an example. So I recommend to start, just use 7 or 8 or 10 really broad keyword terms and expand the campaign as you go. Now, we're going to go over to options and continue the discussion here. GSA is going to take those keywords that you set up right here, and it's going to take them to search engines, and it's going to look for sites for you to get links from, right? So in this case, these settings expand the box. So if it's really narrow, you can use this to expand it. It's easier to see. But you'll notice that you've got sites from all over the world here, and they're in alphabetical order, right? I mean, there's almost nowhere in the world that's missing practically. And you'll be able to right click in here, and you'll be able to have different choices. Like you can choose by country, and it'll automatically go choose everything from that country. You can choose by language, and it'll choose the search engines in that language around the different places of the world, or German or Spanish. Or you could uncheck all, or whatever you want to do here. But in this case, since this is a weight loss, and I'm in the United States, it's going to be an American campaign. I'm going to choose, in this case, what would be most appropriate for this test campaign would be to choose the United States. Now, if you're in Australia, then you'd choose that, or United Kingdom that, or anywhere else in the world you are, your local area. So what this has done is it's basically a shortcut. So now you've gone into the United States, you're going to see that it checked them, and it's all of them. So you can prune some out if you don't like them, if you don't like some certain search engines, right? So this is just a shortcut to choose all of them, but you have ultimate flexibility. And these are, again, just the settings from the beginning of the campaign. You can add search engines as you go as another way to widen out the campaign, right? So everything is adjustable on the fly. So we've chosen the USA search engines in this case, but I want you to think about the fact that there's all the search engines in the world here. So, if somebody comes to you from some other country and says, can you do a campaign for me? You can be very confident that you can get them local links, right? Which means, in most cases, they're not as competitive as it is in the United States, and you might find that you can actually get some pretty nice listings done with a lot less work than you can here in a lot of cases. So that's should give you confidence to handle any kind of client from anywhere in the world, but also maybe some ideas on things to try. So I'm not aware of any other linking software that has all the search engines in the world in it, but GSA does, and we're thankful it does. It's quite a tool to take advantage of. Now, in addition to that, we've already set the United States. We've set the keywords to look for. We've got some other settings here that we can utilize, right, to adjust the campaign. So what I'm choosing here, I don't want to use stop words to query with, right? If you do, I mean, here's stop words you can use. They're built in. You can adjust this list again. You can, you can click this box, and if those are, use to get better variation of your keywords in the search engines. But I like to just set mine the way I want them and broaden the campaign as I go. If you want to use that, then it's here, and you can experiment with it. I've checked the bottom box here, which means it's going to go look for the sites in my niche, and it's going to take which are my competitors, and it's going to take their backlinks and parse them to see if they meet all of my filters, and if they do, give me links. The ones I want, give me links back to my sites from. And then this second box I checked means that it's not only going to take these keywords and go to the search engines and look for sites for me, but it's also going to add what it finds into a database or a list of sorts. See, so when it finds a site and identifies it, it's going to put it in an identified list. When it submits to it, it's going to put it in a submitted list. When it verifies the link, it's going to put it in a verified list. And if it bombs, it's going to put it in a failed list, right? And it's going to use this list, this inventory of sites that I've accumulated over its campaigns to submit to in this campaign, or in future campaigns, right? We're just starting off with the first campaign, so obviously there's no list in here yet. So it's not really important for the first campaign, because what you submitted to and what's in here are going to be one and the same. But the second campaign, you come back and set up, you check this, and then you'll have that inventory of sites in here to pull from, right? So it gives you diversity. So so not every site is right within your niche, but it also makes GSA more efficient, right? Because it takes a lot of resources to scour the world search engines, find the exact sites with all these different filters and parameters we've set, and then to go in and make a link and add the article and everything else it needs to do. Where it can just go right to this list, get a link, and it makes a GSA faster and more efficient, as well as adding diversity to the type of links that we're going to have coming in, all which are good things. So these are the settings now for the keywords, and so I think you'll find these lists of websites from around the world a powerful option. And again, think about ways that you can use these to expand your campaign as you go, and give GSA more options on sites to find, as it progresses through the campaign. Okay, welcome to our GSA video ranking training, video number 7. We just went over the keywords and the search engines that we're going to use for the campaign. Back here under data and keywords, and under options in the second subheading down, how to get target URLs in the keyword section. So now we're going to go down even further. We're going to skip the top part for now. We'll come back to it later. We're going to go over filters and other settings down here to continue to filter out sites that we don't want links from, because the internet's full of bad neighborhoods and spam sites, and we just don't want to have those types of links in our campaign normally. So you'll notice down here under filter URLs, we can check this box, and it's going to skip sites and ignore sites that have more than a certain number of outbound links. This is important. I'm sure you've all seen a blog page with like 300 comments, and do you really want to be your link number 301 or some spam farm or some other really spammy type page? So if we want to control the links we're getting from that don't have too many outbound links on the page, then we just check the box. I like the setting of 50. For some it's 20, for some it's 100. Feel free to set it wherever your comfort zone or your expertise tells you is right. If we want a specialty setting to just limit, so we're only getting high PR or PR links back to us within a certain zone, we can check this box. You notice it says skip sites with a PR below. For instance, so if we set this at 2, it's not going to give us any links with PR1 or below, or PR0, but it's going to give us PR2 links and above, 2 through. And then you notice it's got a checkbox here for the upper end. So and with a PR above 6. So be careful about this second one. It's easy to misunderstand, but if you check this second box, you're not gonna get any links with PR above that level. So in most cases, you're probably just going to want to use the first one. This would be something for a specialty campaign. Say you had a client that's coming to you, has tons of links, but they just don't have any juice. They're just low quality, not really very helpful for moving a listing. But he's got a lot of them, and you just want to supplement his tons of links with some high-powered links sprinkled in. Then you could just check this box and get him only high PR links. But for a normal campaign, it's not normal or natural just to have high PR links only. So for this campaign, it's not appropriate. So we're going to uncheck the box. But I'm sure you can think of all kinds of ways to experiment with this, and in circumstances and campaigns where you want a little bit more juice, and that's what that's for. If you check that, now it's got a box here that's asking you, well, that PR, where should it be? It could be on a subdomain, in the case of like a Weebly or some other Web 2.0 property, or the PR of the page, right? But it's gonna be very difficult to find PR on a page, because most places you set up a new page and they start with no PR. So you notice it just gave a warning saying, well, there's going to be very little available. Are you sure you want to do that? And then here's the use PR of the main domain, the front page of the site. So probably most of the cases you're going to want to use this. And then there's going to be certain times where GSA is not going to be able to identify what the PR is. So this here makes it complete by saying, well, if you can't figure out the PR, skip it anyway, because I only want high PR links. So that would be a complete set of settings under these two different checkboxes if you wanted to have PR above a certain level from the main domain. And again, you have the options here from a subdomain or the PR of the page, which, rightly so, says that you'll get a very low number of links because that's difficult to find. Okay, so in this campaign we're setting up for the Facebook, though, we really want to blast it, so we're going to turn that off because it's not appropriate. Now you'll notice here in this setting we've got a box of basically every kind of links that we have in GSA. They're listed over here too for another reason, but this is kind of a master on and off. It says type of backlinks to create. So if we uncheck it, GSA, is trying to say that forum links are kind of spammy, and it just wants to make sure you want to add those. Some people like them and some people don't. If you agree with GSA, and you don't ever want forum links, then here's the place to uncheck them so you don't ever get them. But the other thing you need to be aware of is that GSA has to do constant updates, because it deals with hundreds and hundreds of kinds of sites, and every time they change anything, GSA has to change to just so it can create the link there. So you'll get probably an update practically every day from GSA, and when it updates anything pertaining to a particular kind of site, often it'll uncheck the box in here. So you might want to check in here from time to time, make sure there isn't any box that's become recently unchecked. So it's kind of the master on and off. If you don't want anything at all from that type of site, here's the place to uncheck it. We've got some other settings here. The last time it did an update, the words disappeared here, but this is if, and you can just mouse over to see if you only want follow links, right? I like to use this one because avoid posting to sites with just no domain name and just an IP address, and I think you've seen those kind of sites. They're pretty spammy usually, so I like to avoid them. If you want to avoid posting to subdomain sites, you could check this, but I mean subdomains are hot right now, so it's not likely you're going to want to use that in most cases. And then if there's at least, you want to make sure there's at least one of your keywords present on the site before it chooses it. If that's one of your filters, then you would check this box. Or it says a lot of sites are going to get skipped if you do that. Are you sure you want to do it anyway? So you can set this so at least one or any number you set here, keywords of your keyword list have to actually be on the site before it actually uses it. If you really want tightly knit sites, you can experiment with that. The next subheading here is for porn and sites like that. If you check this and a word that appears on the site is in this list, it'll skip over the site, right? You have full control over the words in here, so you can either uncheck them individually, or you can add to the list or edit the list. Import your own list, right? So if there's a certain kind of sites you don't want, or certain, you could put the word in here, and if it finds that word on the site, it's going to skip over it. So it's a pretty important filter. Now, GSA is going to go out and make a lot of links every day, and there's, eventually, possibly going to be a case where, you put some links on somebody's site and they're going to be so upset they're going to track you back down and contact you and have some not so nice things to say. If that's the case, then you could just check this box and just skip their URL and any time in the future in this campaign. If you're running multiple campaigns for in that niche, that might involve that person, you want to make sure you do the same thing for the other ones. This could be the case that maybe you're running campaigns in a niche, and maybe your site's in a niche. You maybe don't want links made on your site, and so you can skip that, or any other competitor that you want to make sure you stay friendly with or don't upset, or any other circumstances where you want to skip a certain site. You could put it in here. If you want to skip a certain country, you can just check the box here. Skip sites from the following countries. And then, check the country, and you won't get any links from that country. But it says here, a little warning: detection could fail. If it's not possible to find out what country it was from, it could put a link on that country anyway, but it'll stop most of them, most likely. That's not very useful in most campaigns now, but for a specialty thing, that may come in handy, and who knows in the future what our needs will be. If you ever need the setting, it's here to use. So those are some general filter settings to, again, fine-tune and eliminate links from certain sites that we don't want links from, bad neighborhoods, sites that, Google, isn't going to think favorably upon us if we have links coming from that neighborhood. Maybe they won't add authority to us, or they'll identify with us with things that will detract from our authority. So these filters are important for campaigns on an ongoing basis and to protect clients and our own businesses. So and again, over time, Google does change its parameters significantly. We all know that. So even if something's in here that we may not want to use now, it could be very important later. So just bear in mind that they're all available. Welcome to our GSA Search Engine Ranker training video number 8. We've just gone through many filters that you can use to keep undesirable links out of our campaigns. And now we're going to go back up to the top of the page and look at some more general settings for our campaign. These boxes that are checked by default. So we're going to go through each setting here and talk about it and how we can use it. The first one setting here is to ratchet down GSA. It'll go out and make thousands and thousands of links a day, but if we want to have a project where we're really having a narrow number of links each day, we want to ratchet GSA down, then we'll check this. And it's saying, are you sure you want to do this? Because this is going to limit the number of links you're going to get. All right, so it's got these numbers in here to begin with, but I like to change this to 1440 because it's in minutes, and that 1440 minutes is a day, right? If you want to do it by half day, then you could put 720 or 360 for a quarter day, or do it by minutes. But 1440 is a day. And so now we're saying for a day, we want to just create, it's set at 100 links right now. Plus or minus is for variation, right? So it kind of looks like a robot if you got exactly 100 links every day, right? But if it's got plus or minus 17, then, we're talking 83 one day, 117 the next. It's got a nice variation to it. So that's what this is for. It's kind of a randomizer. There's all kinds of purposes you're going to use this, want to use this for over time, because we're going to have campaigns for all kinds of purposes. The generic campaign we just chose to set up for in our training was to blast to Facebook, and this isn't appropriate for that because we want large quantities of links for that. But this is for specialty campaigns where we want to really ratchet GSA down, maybe get a specialized set of links, right? So let's say we ratchet this down and we just turn it to 5, just as an example. And we're going to say, let's just do plus or minus 1. And then let's say, of the types of links over here, what's chosen by default is pretty spammy, so I'm just going to uncheck those. But let's say we just wanted Web 2.0 properties, right? If you click the plus here, you'll see that it opens up the all the different kind of Web 2.0 properties. So we could either just use them all, or we could just go select very special ones, like, uncheck the box. Go over here, and here's WordPress. I like that. Zenga, Opera, Posterius, whatever you like. So just pick your favorites. Here's Insane Journal. If you need more room to read this, you can widen this area. Right now my mouse is thinking it doesn't want to do it, but there's a widener right here if you need it. And so let's say we pick a couple other sites we really think are hot, whatever they might be. Technorati. And we want to, drip feed those Web 2.0 properties over time, right? 5 a day. Plus or minus 1, and then let's say we want to, add maybe some social media with that. So here's a stumble upon, right? Maybe we want to add some stumble upon links, and maybe even some PDF sites, right? Let's say we just chose that, and it's a pretty hot combination of sites, right? I mean, got really specialized links from a nice variety of places, and if we drip feed those a few a day in on our money site, it could be pretty valuable, right? So that's what this setting is for. And going along with that, if you go down here, and we skipped it over before for a reason because it pertains more to this section. If you want to post on a particular site more than once, like for instance, say a Web 2.0 property, say you want the campaign to create more than one site on WordPress or on Opera or some other place, then you could check this, and you can even set it here as to whether you want the first one to not have a link in the article, and then another one to have a link, or the time between posts, the maximum time it's going to set up a Web 2.0 property in that location, a separate one for you, and maximum accounts per site. So you can govern that in here and have it create multiple properties on some of these Web 2.0 if you want. But again, you have full control. So if you want it to have more than one, check the box. If you don't, it'll just create one. So we're drip feeding high quality links to our site, whatever we want to hit this campaign with. That's how we do it here. And you can make it so it's going to receive that many links for the whole project. Or remember when we first started, I showed you how to do a project that has maybe 5 or 7 URLs or more, and each one has its own keywords. Well, if you want this to be 5 links per URL in this multiple URL campaign, you can check that too. So have full control all the way down from just blasting a property with tons of links to performing a very precise, small drip feed, high quality link campaign, or anywhere in between that we want to do. There's just no limit as to what we can set up other than what our imagination limits us to be. But for this Facebook, that's not appropriate, so I'm going to uncheck that. Some sites have a function where they query you for what kind of category your site's in when you go there. This is what this is for. You can check the box and have it choose random, and it'll automatically just choose an option randomly for you, and just so it won't be a stop, block for you not getting the link, right? So it's a good idea to check that and leave it on choose random, so you don't get stopped by that kind of security or questionnaire. This setting here is again to set it up so it verifies the link automatically, right? Because remember, we want to record the link in our list or database for verified links. So we're going to check that, set it up on automatic. If you're planning on using an indexing service, this is kind of like the global on and off. We already went over the video on how to set up indexing services and which ones work with GSA over here in the options. So that's already in a video. But this is the global on and off. If you're not going to use indexing at all, you just uncheck this. But if you're going to use indexing, if you're going to use an outside indexing service, then you would just leave this checked. If you're planning on using GSA SEO indexer, then you'd want to check that. But it's a good idea to go see that other video if you have questions on this. Now, down here at the bottom, it says continuously try to post to a site even if it failed before. And we've all seen on the internet where a host can be having a bad moment in a site, even our money site. Maybe once every couple of years we've gone to and it failed for just a second, and a minute later it started working, right? That can happen. And we could go to a link and it could fail, and it's going to put it in the failed folder, remember? But we don't want to really condemn it to everlastingly being ignored in the fail folder if it could be a good link. So maybe the next time it tries it's going to work, and it might be one of the best links we've ever gotten. So if we check this box, it'll try it again to make sure. For tags, anchor text don't really make that great a tag usually. I mean, it can for some campaigns. I don't say never, but because, for instance, anchor text have things like naked URLs and generic terms and things like that in there. So most often our keywords probably are going to make better tags. So, again, whatever is most appropriate for your campaign, but you might want to think about using, because most of the time it's going to be the most appropriate thing for setting for the tags. So those are the generic settings here for GSA in the filtered section. So now we've gone through and we've set up the URL, the anchor text, right, and the keywords, and we've set up all the filters where we're going to go get the links from. Nailed everything down, so we're only going to get precisely what we need. So now there's only a couple things left to do, a couple really important things. One is to put content in here to use for the submissions. But the other thing is we need to identify the kind of sites we're going to actually accept once they pass these filters. So we're going to do that in the next video, so we'll see you over there. Welcome to GSA Search Engine Ranking Training, video number 9. We've now been through all of our settings for URL and anchor text, keywords, and all the filters associated with GSA to make sure we don't get links from bad neighborhoods and bad sites. Now there's only a couple things left, mostly to add our content in and to choose exactly what kind of sites we want to get, apply those filters to actually get links back. And that's this section over here, where to submit. We talked about, remember when we went over the options, about SARE Engines, a $15 service where you can add your API key here in options, which adds additional properties. I put the API key in here so you can see the properties it adds. So it adds a whole 2 new sections to our list of sites we can choose from. Now, if you look at these types of sites, there's a few chosen here by default. They're not necessarily the best types of links, so I'm going to uncheck them. And remember, we're blasting a Facebook URL for this sample campaign we're setting up. So in order to do that, everyone's going to have their favorite types of links to use, right? But I'm just going to choose a few here as a sample starting place to get links from for this campaign. And, again, everyone's going to have their ideas of what kind of links they want to use for blasting a Facebook or any other type of, so these are just a random choice that I've made here as a sample. Now, and again, it's also not the campaign setting, it's just the setting to start the campaign. All of these settings can be changed on the fly as you go, adjustments made, or used to broaden the campaign. We talked about broadening the campaign over time before, about adding keywords, right? Additional keywords, checking the boxes on the front that strip keywords from target sites and use those to add to our list, adding different search engines, but we can also expand our campaign over time by adding different types of properties, right? So say we work this campaign and blast this kind of property for a week, and then say we want to add something a little more spammy to it. After we've got our foundation laid, you can do that. So there really is unlimited choices and unlimited options that you have here with GSA for almost anything to accomplish a campaign that will do almost anything you want it to do. You might want to open up some of these and get familiar with what's inside of them, because there's a huge variety of sites here, and you're just looking at the overall box. If you check the box for that category, it's going to check all of them, but there's a lot of variety of sites inside each one. And you could just check certain properties inside of here if you just want certain ones for your campaign, or you could check the entire box and use all of them, right? The SER engines that we added, you can see in here, it's got things like Tumblr, Newsvine. It's got some pretty powerful sites in here that it adds to your arsenal. And then it's also got Web 2.0 profiles from these locations too that it adds. So, okay, so for blasting a Facebook, this is a pretty good starting point for the settings. And you'll notice now that we've added properties, that the options here have expanded, because now GSA knows exactly how much different kinds of content that we'll need to submit to all these different places, and different things like email for email verification and article management. So it's opened up a whole nother set of options, and we'll go over those in the next video. But for right now, I think I'd like to recommend that you get familiar with the types of sites in here that you can use for your different campaigns, and think about different strategies you would use for different campaigns and what kind of properties you would use to fine-tune and get the best results for those campaigns for you and for your clients and whoever else you might be working on behalf of. So that is the where to submit section. We'll be going over content, adding content in here in the next video. So I look forward to seeing you then. Welcome to GSA Search Engine Ranking Training video number 10. In the last video we added the properties to submit, and now that we noticed that there's been over 20 different areas of content that have been opened up down here that are required to submit to these different locations. And in order to fulfill the campaign, we have to have content filled into those 20 areas. It's kind of daunting looking, but thankfully we have a solution. Enter Wicked Article Creator. And there are other options. I'll show you through them, but I like this one for a particular reason, and I'll show you what it is now. We're doing a Facebook, and we're just going to campaign as a sample campaign for this training. So we're just going to pretend that maybe it's in the weight loss niche. So we're going to put a very general term in here, weight loss, in Wicked Article Creator. And we're going to choose GSA, and we're just going to click build. And you'll notice that what it's doing is it's going to, many different article sites, major article sites, and grabbing content for this keyword from there, and it's putting the articles in here now. Generally, it'll scrape, different amounts depending on how broad the keyword is and what it can find, but it's not uncommon for it to have 300 or 325 articles that it's going to strip down and repurpose to make your content for your campaign. So we're just going to give this a minute now. I'm going to go. It's already on articles found 92. Just go ahead and let this work so you can see how quick it is. It'll only take a couple minutes to generate and repurpose all the content for our campaign. You'll notice too with Wicked Article Creator that there's other software you can use it with, and also you can just create articles for use in internet marketing purposes, also outside of GSA. So it's a pretty practical piece of software. Well, we're up to 187 articles so far. 200, it's about 75% done. I'm just going to pause the video until it gets done, just so we don't have to sit here for another minute, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we can see that Wicked Article Creator has found 307 pieces of content that it's repurposing. It's processing them now. It's breaking them down by sentence. You'll see the screen changes here as it does it. So I'm starting the video back up so you can see this process. So if things happen during your use of it, you'll know what's normal. So it's repurposing the content now. In a second here, you'll see it'll break it down by sentence, and then very quickly thereafter, it'll have all your content finished. Okay, so you can see now it's broken everything down by sentence, and then ended up getting 310 articles. And now here it's repurposed our content, right? We've already put anchor text in GSA, so we don't want to overwrite it. So we're gonna delete that, and we're gonna choose our category. Remember, it was weight loss, so we're just gonna say health and fitness. Generate categories for submission for different sites, so it can make sure it finds something to use. And then we're gonna go over here and we're gonna go to export to database, and it's gonna put this identification number in your clipboard. Okay, we just said okay. So now we're gonna go back to GSA. We're gonna go to the bottom here where it says tools, autofill. We're going to go to WAC for Wicked Article Creator, and it's asking us for the ID. We're going to put the ID we got in from Wicked Article Creator. We're just going to wait a second and see it filled 23 slots of necessary content to do the submission. So you notice just about everything's full here, right? There's a couple things that GSA, or Wicked Article Creator, do not do. Because it doesn't know what videos you want. So if you go down here, you'll see there's a video ID. That's the YouTube ID from the video URL in YouTube. If you put your mouse over here, you'll see it's the part after the equal sign in the URL. So you need to do that. It needs a preview image, which you just click here and down, grab off your hard drive. And if you choose document sharing sites, which we haven't right now, but if you do, it's going to go down here and it's going to ask you for, we'll just check it. So it'll ask for it, right? A document here, the PDF itself that you want to submit. So you would just create a PDF, go to your hard drive, and grab it, right? Okay, so I've gone and gotten a YouTube video, so I put the ID in here. You could spin multiple YouTube videos. You know, this is for the submission to the video sites, right? By just using the straight spin syntax, you know, pipe separated, just like we did for the anchor text. Right, so we also put an image in here. You can just grab any image off your hard drive that you have prepared to use for preview image for your campaign. And we're pretty much ready for content. If you're gonna be doing Web 2.0s, you would probably need to put in a blog name and a tagline for your WordPress video. I mean your WordPress submission. Okay, so I've just go ahead and put in a blog name and a blog tagline here. The reason Wicked Article Creator doesn't create that is because it's it's a pretty personal thing, an important setting. So I've just gone up here and I've grabbed the general information for the video description, and I've just grabbed that spin syntax and I put it in here for the blog about also, right? So that's just a quick shortcut if you'd care to use it. Otherwise, you could put together your own, blog about. And that's pretty much it. So that's all the settings. We push OK. GSA has a built-in protection. It won't accept saving the campaign if anything's missing, right? So the fact that it accepted the campaign means that everything's in place. And you notice now we have the campaign over here in the project section. We're done with number 1. Facebook. So we're going to go back and edit this. And so, everything's saved and in here the way we left it. And we know that all the content's in its place. Everything's fine and nothing's missing because that is a protection that's built in. Now, there's still a couple things we need to go over in here to get started. We need an email account. So using Hotmail is... You can get 1,000 Hotmail accounts on Fiverr for usually like $5. So and then it'll last you probably a year. So that's what I do. So I'm just going to delete this account that's already in here that comes as a default. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to just drop one of the Fiverr email I got from the Fiverr guy for $5, and there really isn't any important Fiverr guy. I mean, whoever has a lot of ratings that's going to give you the most for your $5, generally is fine. And then you just want to test it when you get it in here, just to make sure it works. So by default, this isn't set. Wait at least 15 minutes between 2 logins. So we don't want GSA to be hamming our email box every minute and a half all day long looking, to see what's in it. So it's a good idea to check this box. It'll save your account, make it last a good long time normally. So we've got our email in here, and then we've also got the article manager, right? So I'm going to be going over the article manager with you in the next video and some additional settings for the project. So that will be video number 11. So I look forward to seeing you there. Okay, so we've gone through and added all of our content now. And so we want to discuss a little bit the article manager. If you click on here, you'll notice that there's actually 3 articles in here. I added one from Wicked Article Creator. But you'll go down here to Tools and Autofill, and you notice there's other tools in here. In Wicked Article Creator, we used in the beginning, it auto-populated, remember, 23 different types of content we needed, including putting an article in the article manager. I went back and used Article Builder. All it does is it creates the main article. So I added 2 articles in the article manager from Article Builder, if you have it. And then there's these other types of software that create content too that, I'm not familiar with some of them. Other ones I've tried and I didn't like as much as Wicked Article Creator. But obviously you should probably explore these and see if they're useful for you. But in this case, I've used Wicked Article Creator and then Article Builder to add 2 more articles here. And this is the under autofill here is under Tools, right? is where these other types of software are for adding content. Now in the article manager, it's something we need to go over. It's something that GSA uses in a different way than you'd normally think. I mean, when you think of article manager, you think of managing the articles for the campaign, but GSA kind of treats it like a library. So we've only made one campaign so far. The next campaign will add. It'll take these 3 articles and add the article for the next campaign to it, and then in the third one it'll add that to it too. So it'll be an accumulation of articles, and that's fine if you have a company where you're just dealing always with campaigns for the same theme, right? And you're doing internal SEO. Then this, it's really kind of nice to have a library of content you can choose from, right? But if you're doing all kinds of different campaigns for all kinds of different themes, you're doing maybe a launch jack in one niche here, and a client in another niche here, and a couple CPA sites you have for another niche here, and so on and so forth. You're going to have a real mix of articles in here, and you want to be careful because whatever you leave in here, GSA is going to use and submit. So you want to come in here and prune anything out that isn't for the niche you want to use for this particular campaign, right? So it's fine this time because it's the first one. So we've got 3 articles exactly what we want for weight loss. But the next one, if we set up a different niche, bear in mind these 3 will be there. And you'll need to delete them and leave the one or the multiple versions of articles that you want to use for that specific campaign in here in the article manager. If it's in here, when you push the start button, it's going to use it. So make sure you come in here and check and prune out anything by clicking delete on it, highlighting it, and deleting it. You can also preview the articles if you want. Now, down here at the bottom, you'll notice you have choice of putting a link, insert a link at the sentence in the bottom or in the article, or just link in the article at random position, or no link at all, right? Sentence and article at the bottom or in a random position. So you can choose whichever you want. And these are for adding random images and videos, right? So this is how it comes, from the factory. It's going to say 0 to 1 in here. So just make sure the boxes are checked. If you want videos and images, it's going to, in this case, randomly put 0 to 1 images, which means, one will have an image and another won't, and it's going to put 0 to 1 videos, which means one will have a video and one won't. So 1 out of every 4 is going to have a video and an image, and 1 out of every 4 is going to have nothing in it, right, other than just an article and a link. And then this is if you want to submit duplicate articles to a particular account, like for instance, a Web 2.0 property or something. So that's a decision you're going to have to decide on. If you have multiple articles and you click this, then if it's submitted one and your campaign to submit a second time there, it'll submit a different one than it did the first time. So it's probably a good idea. And then this top one here is for random URLs. It's going to submit random words in your article to make it look more natural, random URLs. So that's something you might want to experiment with. In this case, we're not going to use it for our Facebook campaign because we want to get as many links as we can to Facebook, and other URLs pointing out would dilute the link power of the one that's in there that we really want to get the power from. But I think you can think of a lot of other reasons to use this as something that would be interesting to experiment with, I'm sure, for many. Okay, so that's the article manager. We also have under options here a scheduled posting. Again, if you're going to allow posting on the same site again, you can check this. And then you can submit the interval so they're not posting right back to back, boom, boom. Right? You could post the first one without links if you want and post the subsequent ones with links. Or you could set a time between the first posts or a time to wait between the 2 posts. Maximum posts per account and maximum accounts per site, right? So it's all tied in with the same theme. So the settings for that are right here under options. down in the center of the page. So that's our settings for our article manager and our options. Now we have all the content in place, perfectly set. If we push OK, remember again, if it accepts it, that means everything's in place. There's nothing missing. It's got a built-in protection. If there's anything missing, it'll tell you. We put in our email account. We've got everything set. Remember, previously we already set all the options for GSA, so we're good to go. And now we're ready to essentially run the campaign. So there are some other settings and options in GSA that you need to be aware of, so we'll be going over some of those next. So look forward to talking to you in the next. Okay, now that we've got all of our settings done for our project, our campaign, we can go to our campaign and highlight it. And, we've been using in this highlighted format the edit button to go in and edit the details. There's another set of options we can use by right-clicking on the campaign itself. For instance, we can turn its status to active or inactive. You notice it's active right now. We could also just do it by clicking on here. We can change the priority, which means, if you have a number of campaigns in here, the default is plus, but if we set it on double plus, then it's going to give it some priority over the other campaigns. We have a master on-off switch here. Some people get confused on this. This turns GSA on and off. And when you turn it on and off, any campaigns that say active are going to start running, and any campaigns that say inactive are going to be turned off, right? And there's a number of reasons for that. You're going to have a whole library of campaigns in here, and you're not going to necessarily want to run them all at once. Depending on how many you have, it may not be wise to run them all at once. I find that running about 15 campaigns at a time is pretty efficient level. If you've got 45 in here, then you might want to run them, in sequence. Run them 15 at a time, or get another license for GSA and set up another copy. But you can turn them off on the fly as they're running, and just turn it to inactive and make adjustments too. Then you can, while all the campaigns are running, we just turn this one inactive, suppose. We can go in here and edit the campaign and make whatever adjustments we want to make, and then start it up again, right? So that's how GSA works. You've got active and inactive here, and you've got a master start and stop button. In addition, in here, you've got this modify project button. Has a lot of key features. For instance, you can rename a project. You can duplicate a project. For instance, right now, we just did the Facebook. Let's say we have a Twitter for the same client. Whoops, misspelled that. Let me fix that. Okay, so now all we have to do, if it's for the same client, same niche, everything, go in here and just edit the Facebook URL to the Twitter URL. All right, the keywords are all good. Anchor text, content, everything, right? Just change it to active, and we've got a second campaign running. And we could right-click on this and duplicate it again and do a Google Plus for the same client, and we could do a YouTube or whatever else they have, right? With just one click instantly. Now, when you do this, they're all running the same keywords and they're all running the same content, which is fine for a while. But remember, you want to expand your campaign. So after a short while, one way to expand them would also be to go in here and it just takes a few minutes to get content from Wicked Article Creator. Just generate new content, go down here to Tools, Autofill, put the information in, and update the content that you're submitting, the articles and other content that you're submitting for each one separately would be a great idea. And over time, periodically, depending on how many links you're running and your strategy, you want to continue replacing, the content. But with the tools we've given you, it's so easy. It just takes minutes. So theoretically, I mean, we could have had all of the social media for the client running here just a couple minutes after the first one is done. So that's a nice feature. And if we need to set up a totally new campaign for a totally new client, you can still right click and go duplicate, right? Modify project duplicate, because it still has all the settings in here. But you just go in here now and update now the keywords and the anchor text and the URL for the new client, update his, the content for his niche. And then, as long as the search engines are the same, you can adjust those if you need to, but all the general settings would, be the same most likely for the next campaign. So it'll still save you a lot of time to do it by using duplicate. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. You can delete them in here too, so we don't need that right now. And in here too, you can also back up the projects, right? Which I encourage you to do right away so you don't lose your settings. You go back up all projects and you save it, right? Name it whatever you want. Save it in a place where if everything fails, you're still going to be able to retrieve it, and you'll be able to restore this, these settings within seconds. And in fact, in options, there's also a backup. You can back up all those option settings we put up, just by clicking this, save it in a safe place. There's a restore button in each place, and you can have the options restored for not only projects, but for all of GSA just in seconds. It just takes a second. If you look inside here too, there's also other useful tools. You can rename a project or merge two projects together if you wish. In here too, we also have a diagram chart. You might want to use this for clients, but it'll show a pie chart of all the different types of properties that have been created. You can set a date range here, right? So it's kind of cool. You could do a screenshot of that if you want, or print it out, save it. Also in here, we have show URLs, so it'll make a list if your client wants a list of links, or you do for some reason, of what you've submitted successfully or verified. You can get those here. You can also import URLs into the project itself by from a file, a clipboard, or from some site lists. So this is if you have some kind of scraper or other tool, then you can download a list of links of sites that you've gotten off the internet for different purposes, or backlinks from some other site, and you can import them in here, and it'll essentially drop all the settings you've given this project, and it'll submit to that list till it's finished. You can go in here to show URLs, and it'll show left target URLs, what's left in the list that it's working on there. So those are some important settings for you here in the project area. We're going to go over some settings that are in the toolbox next in the next video, and then we're going to actually fire up GSA and show it to you running, so we can give an idea what to look for as it's running and what to expect. So we'll see you in the next video. Okay, welcome to video 12 for the GSA Search Engine Ranker. In this video, we're going to be going over the toolbox in Options and under Tools. And it's got some important settings in here. First of all, as you're running multiple settings in GSA, it's going to be finding duplicate copies of the same sites and submitting to, an overlap of the sites between campaigns. So you need to go in, if you're running this day and night, I would recommend doing this daily, removing duplicate URLs and removing duplicate domains. And you'll notice that GSA speeds up significantly after doing this. It's good maintenance, because if there is duplicate URLs in there, it can only submit to them, once. And if it's trying futilely to do it over and over and over again, obviously that's going to create an inefficiency. So that's important maintenance that you want to do on a daily basis if you're running volumes of campaigns on a daily basis. Even if you're not, you might want to experiment with doing this regularly because I think it definitely helps the efficiency. This cleanup is something you want to do as a maintenance measure on a weekly or a monthly basis, depending on how much you're running it. You have to determine your own schedule, but it'll clean up and remove non-working sites out of the database, which will again increase the efficiency of GSA. Now remember, we're saving the sites in the database, or a list of identified, successful, verified, and failed. So you can go here and actually see your list. Again, this has been running, for a brief period of time. It's got 77,000 URLs in here, and they're broken down by all the different types of URLs that GSA runs. So that's how you can see your database list. In here also, you can use this feature to import URLs from either a scraper or from Ahref or other places, and it'll identify the platform and sort it into your identified folder, right? So that's an important feature to, for adding links into your list from sites that are really doing well, maybe in some of your niches, or that I've recently come up through the ranks really quickly, and they could have some very hot links there. So that'll actually sort them in by the hundreds of types of sites that are in GSA. You can also scrape for sites, search online for URLs. Let's say you look at your list after a week, and it's got hundreds of thousands of sites in there maybe, but you don't have enough, let's say, Drupal sites, for instance. So, for your liking at least. So you can come in here, you can just add Drupal. It'll put the footprint in here for Drupal. You notice you can add keywords too if you want. So if you want to find just niched ones, you can choose the search engines you want to look in, right? And you just push OK, and it'll go out on the internet, and start looking for Drupal sites, and it'll add them to your list, right, of identified folders, and then which is going to end up in your successful and verified folder, Okay, so also you can import and export, URLs from projects. This is actually for adding them, but you can import and export site lists here from your site list if you want to back it up at a certain point, or maybe you have a copy of GSA that you're just installing on another server and you want to copy your list over, or you're deleting your list and keeping lists for very specific purposes, and you want to import and export them in here for that reason. It adds a whole nother dimension of what you can do with GSA. And so that's all the settings here in the toolbox, a very important settings. So don't forget these, because you're going to want to use these as you go. Now, also here in the bottom part of the edit function for a campaign or a project, there's also another set of tools here, right? And so these set of tools we've already gone over using the autofill feature, right? And there's the auto spin feature here, so you can just put a list of keywords in here, and whether they're comma separated or line separated, it doesn't matter. Just click the appropriate button, and it'll put them in spin syntax here for use for the various parts in the inside of settings of GSA. Also in here is import and export functions for various things: account data, whole project backups, data fields, and things like that, if you want to get involved in that. And you can also some of the features that we've already gone over from inside here are also duplicated in this area, right? So from in here. So It's just another navigation method for some of these, to get to the same types of settings that we've already gone over here. But also, you notice here at the bottom here, there's also a test, which actually allows you to see in advance what the campaign is actually going to look like. And you can test as many times as you want. It'll just throw up a new spin version of everything you've got in here. You can read the text, make sure your keywords are spun properly. Your anchor text, and everything's working properly. It's a good idea to do this a few times before you start the campaign, right? To check everything out. Okay, so that's the various tools used for GSA. We're gonna now go ahead and in the next video we're gonna fire GSA up, and we're gonna show you what to look for when it's running, things to keep an eye on, how it looks and feels, so you'll know what to expect when you get things running. Okay, so welcome to video number 13 for our GSA search engine ranker training. So in this video, I wanted to show you, first of all, GSA running, give you some ideas on things that you want to be aware of and some additional information you're going to need to know. And then also the CAPTCHA breaker and how that works. It's pretty simple. So before we talked about the CAPTCHA breaker, remember here in the options, and they recommended that you add a second service deCAPTCHA. And remember, we talked about that if you add it here, it's going to send all of your failed CAPTCHAs from GSA CAPTCHA breaker to that CAPTCHA service, and you're going to pay for all of them. And that there was some other options. So now's a good time to go over that. Here in GSA CAPTCHA breaker, you have options of emulating various services. I usually just emulate all of them. I haven't noticed a lot of difference between just picking a few of them or emulating all of them. Something you might want to experiment with if you have time. But I'm setting it up like this, and then I'm setting it up to go to death by CAPTCHA to my account only on marked types, right? So if you have it set up over here, it's going to send everything that failed over. But here we can specify CAPTCHA types, right, that go if you check this box here. And what that means is that we can go over here and just look at specific. This is all the CAPTCHA types. Now over here, we have all the actual properties. In CAPTCHA breaker, we have all the CAPTCHA, the actual properties by what's going on with their CAPTCHAs, right? So I'm going to other, and for instance, an important thing for CAPTCHAs is reCAPTCHAs, because a lot of really powerful properties use reCAPTCHA, and you'll notice that this little green and yellow arrow, I'm right-clicking on CAPTCHA, and I'm telling it to toggle use of CAPTCHA services, and so that's telling it whenever it runs into reCAPTCHA. It was already set there, so it didn't like what I did, but anyway, so it on these types of CAPTCHAs, you notice it's solved 0 out of 130, right? It's only solved 40% or 12%. If they're important types of properties for you, this one solved 11%, 36%. So I'm sending those over to, death by CAPTCHA directly, because the CAPTCHA breaker doesn't work with them efficiently. But all the rest of these, I'm just letting them run, and if they fail, they fail, right? So I can very selectively send over whatever properties I want. If we're using over here a type of property, like for instance articles, you go over here and you can see exactly what's going on in articles, how they're operating, what percent they're failing, and make your decision as to what you want to do, each and individually. So it's pretty powerful, and it can help you just get the most powerful links, and then the rest, hey, we don't need to necessarily pay an ongoing fee to get those. If they're not important to you enough, then don't do that. And hey, I know guys that are just using Capture Breaker and that's it too, right? So if it fails Capture Breaker, it fails. So if you're on a budget, that's just another option that works. Even with the proxies, I mean, I know guys that are running it just on the public proxies only and with Capture Breaker only, and they're not paying for proxies or CAPTCHA services beyond, this software right here, which is a one-time fee. So if you're on a budget, those things are definitely possible, and you can still get lots of links. Okay, so those are the settings for Capture Breaker. You can come in here and just click this button here and just make sure it's working. Sometimes you'll get a message like this. Click restart, and then it'll work the next time. And you notice it's starting up back down here, right? So when you start up GSA, you want to make sure that you're getting these CAPTCHA scrolling over here. Otherwise, come up here and reset that button that I just showed you. You can also go over here to options and highlight GSA, and there's a test button here, right? So it'll say communication was successful. So those are the two places you want to go if you're experimenting a problem with GSA Capture Breaker not working. Some servers also, if you're going to run these pieces of software, they don't have enough permission settings. If you have a VPS, in some cases, I mean, I've seen it and I've seen it not be the case. You can just come over here to GSA Search Engine Ranker and run it as administrator, and same with GSA Capture Breaker. If that's the case, if you can't get this working, and that's probably the problem, and then it'll start working because it just needs some extra permissions that for some reason on your VPS or your computer it's not set to have. So that should solve those problems. Other than that, you notice that it's running successfully. They're communicating with each other. We've got campaigns running here. These are the links that have been verified just since we started up the computer a minute ago already. You notice we're getting a steady flow of links being added. We're adding somewhere around 7.5 links a minute right now. And you'll notice that we've got these campaigns running, and they have similar settings to what I already showed you, and I've expanded the campaign, notice, over time, just like I said, and expanded some properties. And this particular is a launch jack that we've been doing. So here it is. We started out a day and a half before the launch, and everyone else had a month, and we just pretty much blasted by everybody. Here's the YouTube #1 position, for that launch with our bonus. We focused on bonus on this launch. So okay, so something else you'll need to know too is that you see how these campaigns are linked together. This is actually what's called a Tier 2 campaign. So I'll explain how to do that, but it's a campaign that's actually linking to the links of the one it's attached to. So this is generating links, and this is backlinking those links. So let's say we wanted to do that on this campaign right here. I would just go, modify project. I would duplicate the project, and then I'm just going to name it, Tier 2. Okay. Okay, so I've got a new project here. It's called Tier 2, and then I'm going to go, highlight the new project. I'm going to edit it, and I'm just going to check on this button, and I'm going to choose the campaign I want to Tier 2, right? And you notice now it did the same thing. It attached it, right? Just like these others. And so now I can go in and set these campaigns up, this campaign for Tier 2 up individually. There's options here for 2-tier. Use anchor text from verified URL. I like to do that. The rest of these, I just want to make sure that the rest of these I'm not very interested in, but you might want to experiment with them, if you have time or if you have the desire. So I've go ahead and using the anchor text from the verified URL, and then I've got the properties set up here. And for Tier 2, you can get away with a little bit more than you can with Tier 1, right? So you might want to try a few extra types of properties, that you're not using in the tier 1, right? So I'm going to push OK, and now I'm going to change that to active. And now I've got a tier 2, and as this continues to generate links, this is going to continue to backlink to them. Okay, so now that I've added this tier 2, we want to make sure we remember to go back in and edit it and add its own email account for that. I just did it, but you would just click the delete button like we showed you before, add a new email here, the password here, click find settings, and then test it when you're done. Again, you can get the Hotmail accounts, generally you can get 1,000 of them at Fiverr. Find someone with a good reputation, lots of good reviews. And the more you can get, with someone with really good reviews, the better. So there's no special person. And anytime you add a campaign at all, even just duplicating a campaign to, say you add a Facebook, like in our example, and you add a Twitter and a YouTube and a Google Plus, you'd want to add a new email each time you do that, right? Because once this campaign uses its email for an account, it's not going to go back and be able to set up a second property there, and you want your new properties to be able to get the same links that the other one was able to get. So it's going to need a new email account to do that. Something else you're going to want to know about GSA Search Engine Ranker is when you go in here and change settings, oftentimes it saves and resets when you push the stop button, right? So you'll notice all the campaigns that are running are green, the ones that are not running are white. You push the stop button, and it'll they'll slowly stop. They'll tell you here that they're stopped, and they'll go from green to white when they're all stopped. You got to wait till all of them stop, and then GSA remembers all the settings and everything that that's happened up here. And now it has a point at this point where it actually is going to record in its memory everything. But if you don't let it stop, and say you do a hard shut off, it'll have lost all the data since you stopped last time. So that's a very bad idea. Never do that. Let it come all the way to the end where all the campaigns are no longer green, and now you've got to save, right? And so down here in the right, it'll frequently say, update ready. It'll be a big green message right here. You want to bring GSA to a stop all the way like this. It'll save everything, and then you can go ahead and do the update. It'll shut GSA off, reload, but it'll have remembered everything, and it'll come back up with the exact same settings and circumstances it has right now. Also, when you do something like adding a tier 2 or adjusting a campaign, oftentimes GSA won't automatically just institute those changes unless you stop it and start it first. So if you make a number of changes and you want to institute them right away, it's best to do a full stop, full start, and then it'll be starting up, instituting all of those changes that you made, and then they will have totally and completely been saved, right? So please remember to do a full stop before you do an update. There'll be a green light here down at the bottom that says update ready, and it's the same thing on GSA Capture Breaker. It updates from time to time. There'll be a green button down here that says update ready. So when you do an update on Capture Breaker, you want to make sure you fully stop GSA, so it's not trying to send things to Caption. It can't do it. And then update Capture Breaker, wait till it fully reloads, and then start them both up again, right? Now this video is getting pretty long, so I'm going to make another video to talk about some things you want to look out for here in GSA, and maybe answer some things that I think will be common questions. And then we'll be adding videos as we go here to answer questions that are rolling in, or specific issues or problems or auxiliary questions people have, or how to apply things. The other thing is that the settings that we've given you, for GSA are good initial settings. I was trained by a professional linking person how to use this a number of years ago, and before that I tried for a month, and I've even seen messages from people on the Facebook that people have tried for a year setting up GSA, and what a bear it is, the learning curve to get started. You could play with settings forever and never get them right. These settings here are exceptional settings for running efficiently, but everyone's got different circumstances, SEO objectives and goals, experiences, things they want to apply, things they want to experiment with. So, take these as that, a good initial setting. You can experiment all you want. If you've backed up your initial settings, you can always reload them and get right back to here, without any problem at all. And take these as they are, as suggestions. There's limitless options in here, and things you can do and things you can play with. There isn't really anything the software won't do SEO-wise, so you're pretty much just limited by your imagination. So have fun, play with it, but just keep your initial settings, because you might need to come back to this point and get back to a little bit more efficient level, and then start again with your testing. So with that being said, we'll come out with a next video. I look forward to seeing you there, and we'll talk a little bit more about what's happening here with the software and what things to look out for. Welcome to GSA Search Engine Ranker training video number 14. Again, we have GSA running here as we left off in the last video, and I wanted to go over a few things that you might want to look for, keep an eye on as you're running. At the bottom here, you notice you have these messages. T stands for how many threads you're running. S stands for how many links you submitted this day. And again, it's 10 a.m. here, so since midnight, that's what it's submitted so far. These are the proxies you have, and you want to keep an eye on that, because remember, we set them to not go below 1,000. If it does that, you need to go check on that and see what happened. Links per minute tells you how many links you're running. This is CAPTCHAs, how many CAPTCHAs that it's sent over to the service, and the memory, and here's your CPU. So you want to keep an eye on the CPU. See, it's running at 99% for the second, but then it goes down to 87, 18, 12. It's not pegged there, right? If it was just pegged there on an ongoing basis, you'd want to go down here into options and change your threads. Remember, we set them at 300 to begin with, right? So that's one thing you want to keep an eye out for. If you have limited memory, you want to keep an eye on your memory too. You can right-click and on the bottom bar here if you got Windows operating system, and you can keep a track on your assets that you're using, your memory and your CPU and your network here too, if you want to double check. And so the other thing is the error messages in here, that there's certain ones you want to watch out for. If you're getting a lot of download fails, then maybe there's a problem with your proxies. Maybe you're not using enough proxies, or maybe you're using too many threads. If it's combined with your CPU being too high, then it's probably too many threads. If you're using I think the proxies have a limit of 100 transactions per minute or something you can use for them, for most of them. If you're running too many threads and too few proxies, you can get into problems. Or if you're running private proxies, you'll get in a message every once in a while saying one of them has been banned or something. I mean, that's not unusual, but as long as it doesn't turn into a waterfall of them, if it's just an occasional message, again, we set up the settings to take care of itself remember here within the options in the configure in the proxy area, remember. Okay, and you can see that in the previous video where we went over the options at the beginning of the training too. Now, you'll also notice here that in CAPTCHA Breaker, we've got all kinds of information. It saved us $128 and cost us $63. So it's solving 62%. It's saved us a boatload of money. It's recognized 149,780 proxies, and it's solved 92,000 of them, right? It's taking an average time of 1.168 seconds, and there's 7 and 8 different types of CAPTCHAs that it's working with so far. You'll notice, and if you remember, in this case, we only set it up to send certain types of captchas over. It says if it's got this green letter here that says by using captcha service, you know that's reCAPTCHA. Remember, that was death by captcha solving that. And you can see, you know, those ones here. If it's got a yellow highlight, that means it's considered it solved either by using death by captcha or by its own means. So that's captcha breaker. As far as other tools, when you start running a campaign, you'll have your verified links here. So you're going to want to check them out from. Okay, so I just right-clicked and opened one. I've got it right here, just as an example. And you'll see, again, you know, sometimes the link's hard to see, but it's right here. It's a URL string, like a naked URL for. Okay, so here's the article that it placed with the link perfectly, so everything is looking really good. We can just open up another one. Okay, we're opening another one. Again, you just highlight it, open URL. Again, you can see this one here is a Web 2.0 property with our content place. It's got a link right here. Looks really nice. Good link. So at the beginning, you know, it's going to fire off and make a lot of links. You know, that tier 2 campaign we just started just a minute ago has already got 70 links here. So you want to check these as you go. Keep an eye on them, especially initially, to make sure there's no errors. If you highlight a mouse over the site, it gives you details on it, right? It says what engine it is. This is Drupal, the anchor text it used. Do follow link, yes. It's got an internal links and external links. It's got 10 external links. Remember, we put a filter on less than 50. So that's a nice link. So again, you can check all of these as you go. Make adjustments. This link was from the SARE engines that we added on. We'll just open the URL here. Okay, so we can see we got our content. We've got our link right in here. So again, another nice link. So you have full control of checking out the links that are verified. A lot of people say, well, why aren't there more verified links? You know, it's got 1782 and 1250. So, you know, you'll notice that as it verifies them, it'll take them off this column and put them over here. And remember, it was set to verify them later. But, you know, also, you know, just remember that in the options, the folder is successful for submitted, right? So that actually is a submitted link. GSA doesn't actually end up being capable of fully going back and verifying all the links. You'll find that that's always the case. But you check your Ahrefs, and most of these are links and are good. They're placed, and a lot of this has to do with proxy issues. Are there other issues on GSA that have to do with its efficiency? Sometimes we're using public proxies, for instance. You know, it'll already have identified you as being a bot at some point in the process, and by the time you go to verify, it won't let you. There's all kinds of reasons for this, but don't get overly concerned that all your links aren't being verified, and thinking these are only links, because these are links that have been made too, right? So in most cases, so I wouldn't just be overly concerned about that. Now, there's a few other messages down here you might want to look out for. You know, we're using email boxes. It's going to go in and it's going to tell you when it goes to an email box and opens it up how many emails in there. If an email box fails for some reason, it'll show you in here. If you see something like that, you need to go in and check your email, maybe replace it, make sure it's still working. You can identify the campaign it came from here. They're color coded, right? So you need to go to that specific campaign the message came from and check. If you're getting a lot of problems with that are proxy related, it'll say, proxy failed or proxy banned. You might want to check your proxies in your inventory, make sure that you've got your inventory and that it hasn't deactivated some of your public or your private proxies. You might want to go back in here, and if that's the case, reload them. If they do actually stop working and you reload them and it discontinues them again, then you might want to email your proxy company and say, these went bad, and ask for substitutes to be given to you. So a couple things you want to look out for. That's pretty much it. It's running normally right now, so if you see message segments like this in Capture Breaker and GSA, this is exactly what you would expect from a normal campaign, right? So I think that's it. We'll be posting additional, solutions to questions people have and other issues that come up in additional videos as we go. And again, we're going to have a community, with Facebook, where everyone using GSA that's a member here can work together and share what's working and what they're doing, and a think tank, as you will, of GSA link madness and domination. So we look forward to that, and we look forward to continually working with you and we wish you the best of success with your agency or business as a result of being able to use GSA to its full. It really can be the backbone of an entire agency or link building business. So we wish you continued success, and we're here to support you along the way.